Thomas Gray sat quietly in the passenger seat, his weathered hands gripping the hem of his worn coat. His son, Michael, kept his eyes on the road, jaw tight, barely speaking. The car moved steadily through the outskirts of the city, far from the familiar streets of Thomas's small neighborhood. The air between them was thick, heavy with words left unspoken. Thomas's mind swirled with uneasy thoughts. Michael had been distant lately, quiet and guarded. Then this morning, without much explanation, he had told Thomas to get dressed, saying they had somewhere important to go. No discussion, no questions allowed. Now, as the landscape shifted from city blocks to long stretches of empty road, Thomas's heart sank. He knew what this was. He had heard the whispers in his own house, the half-finished sentences between Michael and his wife, Lauren. Dad's getting forgetful. He can't be alone forever. Maybe it's time. He wasn't deaf to their concerns, nor blind to his failing body. But being driven away like this, without so much as a conversation, cut deeper than any frailty ever could. Thomas stared out the window, watching the world blur past. Trees stripped bare by winter, fields sleeping under pale skies. Memories flickered like old film reels. Michael, as a boy, running in those fields, laughing until he fell. Thomas teaching him to ride a bike, standing proud at his graduation, holding him close at his mother's funeral. All of it seemed so distant now, like they belonged to someone else's life. Breaking the silence, Thomas cleared his throat. "Michael, where exactly are we going?" Michael's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "Somewhere important, Dad. Just trust me." Trust. That single word echoed in Thomas's chest, hollow and sharp. He turned back to the window, the pit in his stomach growing heavier. The road stretched on, and with it, an unsettling quiet that neither of them dared to break. The car turned off the main road, veering onto a narrow, winding path framed by towering pine trees. The branches interlocked above them, casting long shadows that flickered over the windshield. The sun was beginning to dip, streaking the sky with soft hues of orange and pink. Yet, the deeper they drove into the woods, the more Thomas felt swallowed by uncertainty. Thomas sat forward slightly, eyes narrowing at the unmarked path ahead. "Michael, this doesn't look like any nursing home." Michael glanced at him, a flicker of something, hesitation, maybe, passing across his face. "That's because it's not. Just hold on a little longer." Confusion mingled with the anxiety in Thomas's chest. His hands tightened on his coat as the car crept further into the woods. Finally, the trees broke, revealing a small, secluded cabin by a frozen lake. Smoke curled from its chimney, and soft lights glowed warmly in the windows. Michael parked the car and turned off the engine. He stared ahead for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Then he turned to Thomas. "Come on, we're here." Thomas hesitated. "Here? Where is here?" Michael stepped out of the car, circling around to open the door for his father. It's Mom's place. I mean, it was her place. She bought it years ago. I only found out about it recently." Thomas's breath caught in his throat. "Your mother?" Michael nodded slowly. "She bought this cabin before she got sick. Planned to bring us here, but never got the chance. I thought maybe we could spend some time here. Just the two of us." Thomas stared at the cabin, the weight of memories pressing on his chest. He hadn't heard his wife's name spoken with such tenderness in years. The idea that she had secretly planned a place for them felt like a whisper from the past. For the first time that day, Thomas's grip loosened. His eyes softened as he whispered, almost to himself. She always loved the quiet. Michael offered a small, hesitant smile. Yeah, and I thought maybe we could remember her here, together. Thomas slowly stepped out of the car, his frail legs steadying beneath him. The bitterness that had been gnawing at him began to melt, replaced by something else, a fragile warmth. As they approached the cabin, the cold air bit at their cheeks, but neither of them noticed. Inside, a new chapter was waiting to be written, one built not on endings, but on rediscovered beginnings. The cabin door creaked open, releasing a gust of warmth that wrapped around them like a forgotten embrace. The interior was simple, yet cozy. Wooden walls adorned with old photographs, shelves filled with dusty books, and a stone fireplace crackling to life. Thomas moved slowly, his eyes scanning the room. His gaze landed on a faded photograph resting on the mantel, a picture of his wife, Margaret, standing by the very lake outside, her smile radiant. Beneath it was a note in her handwriting, for the quiet days ahead. Emotion welled in Thomas's chest. He gently traced the frame with trembling fingers. She really planned all this. For us. Michael placed a reassuring hand on his father's shoulder. I think she wanted us to find this together. Maybe she knew one day we'd need it. Thomas nodded, swallowing hard. But as the fire crackled, a sudden draft swept through the room, causing the note to flutter. Michael bent down to pick it up, and something caught his eye, a loose floorboard beneath the mantel. Curious, Michael pried it open, revealing a small, weathered box. Inside were letters, all addressed to Thomas. Thomas stared at them in disbelief. Letters? From Margaret? Michael handed one to him. I think Mom left these for you, for us. Hands trembling, Thomas opened the first letter. His wife's words spilled out in delicate script. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. But I needed you to know. There are things I couldn't tell you then. Things I need you to forgive me for. Thomas's breath hitched. Margaret's words hinted at secrets long buried. As he read on, the warmth of the cabin seemed to flicker, shadows dancing along the walls. Whatever peace they thought they'd found was about to unravel. And Thomas knew. Their journey had only just begun. Thomas unfolded another letter, its pages yellowed, but carefully preserved. This one revealed a truth that shook him to his core. Margaret wrote of a son, an older brother Michael never knew he had. A child Thomas and Margaret had before Michael was born, one they had to give up for adoption during hard times. Margaret had been searching for him in secret. Thomas's hands trembled. Michael, you have a brother. Michael's face drained of color. What? Margaret's last letter revealed that she had tracked him down. The cabin wasn't just a retreat. It was meant to be a place for their entire family to reunite. A knock echoed on the cabin door. Both men froze. Michael slowly moved to the door and opened it. There stood a man, around Michael's age, his features eerily familiar. I'm David, the man said quietly. Margaret was my mother. She left me a letter too, told me to come here. Thomas's heart pounded, tears streaming down his cheeks. Margaret's final gift wasn't a memory. It was a second chance. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories of Brilliance for more powerful tales.